So we're doing exercise 5G, and in this video I'll be answering question 2e, which says for each of the following find the inverse function and state its domain and range. And here's what we've been given, and as you can see it's in my function notation in which I'm given my domain, my codomain, and here is my rule 16 minus 2x. Now the question is asking two things of us. First, to find the inverse function, and then to find the domain and range. And as you can see here, I've broken it up into those two steps. First, finding the inverse function, and then I'll find my domain and range. So let's begin with our first step, finding the inverse function. And as you can see here, I've written down the steps we need to follow. First step, let y equal f of x. So I'm going to come here, and instead of writing f of x equals 16 minus 2x, I'm going to write y equals 16 minus 2x. I've done the first step. Next step, switch x's with y's. So I'm going to switch my x and y. So I'll get x equals 16 minus 2y. I've done the second step. Next, rearrange to make y the subject. So I'm going to minus 16 from both sides, and then I will divide both sides by negative 2, and now y is my subject. But before I tick it off, I just want to clean this up a little bit. So I could rewrite this like this, and that would be 8. And then I could just go, alright, that's there, and that's like this, like that. And that is far prettier now. So now I will tick it off. And then the final step is to equate the new expression to the inverse function of x. So I will do that. 8 minus x over 2. And that right there is my answer. Perfect. So we've done the first part of the question, which is finding my inverse function. I now need to find what my domain and range of this inverse function is. Now, the best way to go about this is by first finding my domain and range of the function itself. So what is the domain of f? And they've told us that is here. It is going to be negative 1 to 7. So I can write that in. Now, the reason why it's so good to find the domain of the function before we find the inverse is because we know that the domain of the function will be the range of the inverse. So this is going to go here. So this right here is that. How easy was that? By finding the domain of the function, we found the range of the inverse of the function. Fantastic. Let me now find the range of the function. Now this is where things get a little tricky, and I imagine if you are having trouble with this question, it might be because of this. How am I going to figure out what the range of the function is? So let us kind of visualize what we're doing. What we have is 16 minus 2x, and if I was to come down to my graph here and graph what this f of x is going to look like, it's just going to be something like this. But let's remember, I have my domain restricted between negative 1 and 7. So it will look something like that. So let's say this is my 7 spot, and this is my negative 1 spot. Now this is just a very rough graph, so we can understand what we're doing. Okay, so don't get too worried about this. We're just trying to visualize what we're doing. Now we're trying to figure out what the range is. So the range is my y values. So as you can see, I'm going to begin here, and then I'm going to go up here. And that's where my range will exist between. So to find this spot right here, I need to put 7 into my equation. So in other words, what I could say is that the lowest value will be the f of 7, and then the higher value will be negative 1. And now all I have to do is put 7 into this. So 16 minus 2 times 7. 2 times 7 is 14. 16 minus 14 is 2. And then to find it when f is negative 1, I'm going to put negative 1 in here. So 16 minus 2 times negative 1. Negative 2 times negative 1 is plus 2. 16 plus 2 is 18. So it's going to be that. So this spot right here will be 2, and this will be 18. But again, this is just to help us. You don't need to sketch it. All you really need to know is to find the range. We're just putting in my values of the domain. And now that we've done that, we know that my range of the function is going to be equal to the domain of the inverse of the function. So this will be 2 and 18. So this and this is going to be part of your answer as well. So this, and this will all be your answer. Hopefully this video was helpful in you answering question 2E of exercise 5G.